All right, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back. I hope you had a great weekend and were able to get a little bit of rest. So in Schoology today, we're going to come down to this blue folder that says week 2. And when we click on it, you're going to see your week at a glance at the top. Go ahead and peruse that. You should see a couple of assignments that I am taking for grades this week. So that way you can kind of prioritize your time as the week progresses. Okay, today in Monday's assignments, you'll see our agenda. I still have maybe about 10 of us in each class that still need to complete their Flipgrid videos. Sorry. So I don't want to publish those until everybody has had an opportunity to do that. Today we're going to focus on the rhetorical situation, and we're going to focus on that for probably about the next couple of weeks or so. And our focus for this week is going to be persona. So if you click the rhetorical situation video that says watch first, Mrs. Hindert, who is one of our fellow AP dual teachers at the English 3 level, she put together a really nice, informative way to break down the rhetorical situation for us. And in addition, I have these notes on rhetorical situation. I'm just going to go through them briefly, but you can slow down as we go through today just to get a little bit more familiar with kind of what the rhetorical situation means. And then I'll get into your assignment for today. Okay, so in order for us to discuss the rhetorical situation, we need to be able to understand what rhetoric means. And rhetoric is such an ambiguous term because it's full of nuance in the way that people talk about it. Rhetoric can be seen as something negative. It could be seen as maybe the way somebody controls an agenda or a narrative, but ultimately it's all around us. It's the way that we carry ourselves. It's the way that we communicate and the different factors and choices we make in that communication. So I have this quote right here that is from one of our College Board consultants, and they say that it's all around us in conversation, in movies, in advertisements, in books, in body language, in art. We employ rhetoric whether we're conscious of it or not, but becoming conscious of how rhetoric works can transform speaking, reading, and writing, making us more successful and able communicators and more discerning audiences. And that's the point of why we're going to look at the rhetorical situation. So ultimately, the rhetorical situation is any set of circumstances that involves at least one person using some sort of communication to modify the perspective of at least one other person. A lot of the times we assume that it's persuasion, and that is the most obvious form of modification, but sometimes it's simply to open someone's mind. Somebody's beliefs cannot always be changed, but their minds can and their actions can. And so the whole purpose of rhetorical situation is to look at the ways in which we are able to modify perspectives of different people. So we're going to start with the first element in the rhetorical situation that we are going to focus on. There are 4, and Ms. Hindert does go over that in her video. And our first one is persona. It's who is speaking. And not only that, but what form of them are speaking. For instance, I'm a teacher. Am I speaking as a teacher? Am I speaking as a human being? Am I speaking as a female, a mom, a student? My various personas depend upon the situation and the context in which I'm using them, as you can see depicted in this video, or excuse me, image. The next one is audience, and the audience isn't everybody contrary to popular belief. The audience is who specifically will be impacted by whatever it is the speaker is communicating. So somebody sitting in Ms. Mendoza's, first period class might not be impacted in a particularly dense engineering article. Okay, it's all ultimately who is the focus of this message and who will be impacted the most. The purpose is the why. It is the outcome or the message or the intent behind whatever it is the speaker is conveying and to whom they are conveying it to, as depicted again in this image, right? What is the why of this message in this image? Obviously that the world is heating up, right? Thinking about our polar ice caps, how they're melting. Anything that has to do with conservation, recycling, anything that we need to be conscientious of in terms of our environment, okay? Then the last one is exigence, and this one can be a very difficult term to break down, but the exigence has to do with what is the sense of urgency for this particular message? What is the context? What problem or issue or concept requires immediate attention? It is some sort of need that must be met. So right now, there are a lot of examples of exigence within our political unrest, if you will, right? Different movements have different messages, and their exigence are as a result of these highly popularized things in the media, whether they're protests or games or celebrity deaths, or unfortunately, there are a lot of different timely situations that would be a perfect example of exigence right now. So ultimately, this acronym is called PAPE, and this is what we're going to focus on as we go through the rhetorical situation. So for today, we're really going to focus on persona, which is who is speaking and the different factors that influence our speaker. So in this assignment, when you click on persona study, everything is on the document, okay? And in this document, you'll see a little bit of a review on persona, right? It's the way that the author or speaker chooses to present themselves within the text. So you have a choice of 2 different TED Talks. One of them is My Identity is a Superpower, Not an Obstacle by America Ferrera. And the other one is The Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Adichie. Both are brilliant TED Talks. But as you're watching in this first section, take notes on the way that the speakers are choosing to present themselves. And that's going to be kind of wrapped up in the situation. Think about what TED Talks are supposed to be for, and what their messages will also dictate what choices they're making in terms of their persona. And then number 2 and 3, you're going to look at what 2 or 3 qualities or aspects of the speaker's personality do you think they most emphasize over the course of their TED Talk? And then explain how you come to those conclusions. Those can be specific quotes that they say, mannerisms, and what have you, specific examples that they use. And then ultimately, their identity markers, we all have them, and they sometimes conscientiously or unconscientiously bias us and are heavily influenced in our persona. So if you look at these 8 different markers, which marker or markers, okay, there could be one or there could be multiple, do you feel most influences the speaker and the way that she presents herself? Always come back to how do you come to these conclusions, okay? So you're going to type your 2 responses here and you are going to submit. I created an example for you based on myself, based on my video content. Now, while I haven't given you a TED Talk, I have been able to engage with you every single day. Last week, I've given you several opportunities to watch my videos on YouTube. So I'm going to go through this with my personal example. So again, the first section is asking me which 2 or 3 qualities or aspects of personality do I emphasize over the course of last week. So for me, based on my daily videos, my Zoom meetings, and other video content, the qualities of my personality I hope to convey were compassion, integrity, and professionalism. While my students may have a different perception, my goal was to illustrate my compassion for the nature of this new platform in our daily conversations by asking them how they were doing, as well as providing some examples of my own similar struggles. Additionally, by making efforts to provide solutions, model sample answers, and trying to engage with every single student at least once last week, it was my hope to show that the tasks and assignments I gave were meaningful, especially by completing them personally. Last, it was my hope to establish trust and credibility with my students by assuring them that their education is in great hands, despite the challenges and obstacles that we may be facing due to our current health crisis. That being said, I'm sure my awkwardness and corny jokes also provided a sense of authenticity and genuine joy of being a teacher that afforded some sense of ease and comfort as we begin this new year. So I did mention 2, or I think I mentioned 3 qualities, and I gave specific examples. And then at the end, I kind of culminated them together with something that I didn't necessarily intend on discussing. And at the bottom, I'm going to talk a little bit about my identity markers. And I'm going to focus specifically on my race and my gender. And this goes back to my welcome message Monday of last week. So some of the main identity markers that come to mind as I present myself are my race and gender and background with regard to my socioeconomic status. For example, in my welcome message video posted last week on the first day of school, I included my academic credentials that were personal to me. I discussed how I am the first person in my family to earn both a bachelor's and a master's degree and move away from home. So these kinds of issues kind of talk a little bit about my socioeconomic background. If I'm the first person in my family to attain secondary or post-secondary education. In addition, both NMSU and UTSA are traditionally HSIs, which are Hispanic serving institutions, in which the number of Hispanic females to earn post-secondary degrees is statistically higher than non-HSIs, meaning I pride myself on my ability to persevere and overcome a lot of the different barriers in my way as somebody who is female, who is a person of color, I would consider myself. And also, ultimately, I did not come from a higher socioeconomic background, as I am the first in my family to attain post secondary education. So, that being said, as my students get to know more about me this year, it will become evident which identity markers heavily influence me on a personal level. So, hopefully, you can kind of look through some of these specific examples as it pertains to myself. Now, I know you might not get into that much depth in terms of these shorter TED Talks, but they're very powerful enough that I feel that if you really are critical and about the way that these speakers are discussing their content, I have no doubt that you'll be able to pull from some of those examples and write me some really great commentary. So let me know if you have questions. Email me, reach out to me. This is due this evening by midnight. And if that, again, is going to be challenging or difficult for you, just communicate with me and then we'll work through it. Okay, have a great Monday, everybody, and we'll see you soon.